"Get off my yacht." The words cut through the champagne-scented air like a blade, spoken by a hostess whose manicured finger pointed toward the gangway with theatrical authority. What she didn't know was that she was standing on a deck owned by the very man she was trying to eject. Marcus Thompson adjusts his simple navy polo shirt and takes a measured breath of the salt-tinged evening air. At 45, he has learned that power whispers while insecurity shouts. The Azure Dreams rocks gently beneath his feet on his company's yacht at an event his foundation sponsors. But the hostess, Jessica Chen, sees only what her prejudice allows, a black man who, in her narrow world, simply doesn't belong. "This is a private charity gala," Jessica continues, her voice carrying that particular brand of condescension reserved for those she deems beneath her social station. Invitation only. Marcus reaches into his jacket pocket with deliberate calm, producing an embossed invitation that bears his name in elegant script. Jessica barely glances at it before shaking her head with practiced dismissal. Anyone can forge these things. Security? The irony isn't lost on Marcus as conversations halt and heads turn in his direction. These are faces he recognizes: board members, investors, philanthropists, who have shaken his hand in boardrooms and praised his vision. Yet here, stripped of corporate context and judged by appearance alone, he becomes invisible to them. A slight smile plays at the corner of his mouth. Tonight will be educational. You won't believe what happens when he finally speaks up. Marcus had arrived at the marina 20 minutes earlier, parking his understated Tesla, Mo 1, Do S, between a Bentley and a Maserati. He chose simplicity tonight. Polo shirt, khakis, boat shoes, the uniform of East Coast privilege, though his skin color apparently nullifies any social camouflage it might provide. The Azure Dreams stretches 150 feet of gleaming white fiberglass and chrome, its 3 decks alive with the soft glow of ambient lighting and the musical clink of crystal glasses. Marcus knows every inch of this vessel, from the hand-selected Italian marble in the main salon to the custom sound system his company's tech division installed. Thompson Holdings purchased it 6 months ago, specifically for events like tonight's Children's Cancer Research fundraiser. As he steps aboard, Marcus nods politely to familiar faces. "Doctor." Patricia Williamson from Children's Hospital glances his way, her expression flickering with recognition before she quickly looks away, suddenly fascinated by her champagne flute. Richard Blackstone from the mayor's office actually takes a step backward, as if proximity might contaminate his political reputation. Interesting, Marcus thinks, filing away each microaggression for later consideration. He's witnessed this dance before, the way certain people become strangers when he's not behind his mahogany desk with his nameplate clearly visible. Jessica and her team of hostesses track his movement with the intensity of security guards. They huddle near the registration table, whispering and pointing with the subtlety of middle school gossips. Marcus catches fragments of their conversation as he passes. How did he get past the dock security? And someone needs to check if he's on the real guest list. The real guest list. Marcus almost chuckles at the phrasing. He makes a mental note to review Thompson Holdings' vendor selection process. Clearly, background checks on event management companies need to be more thorough. A server approaches with a tray of hors d'oeuvres, seared scallops on endive. Marcus recognizes the catering company's signature appetizer, but hesitates when she sees Jessica shaking her head sharply from across the deck. The young woman retreats with an apologetic shrug, leaving Marcus standing empty-handed while white guests around him are offered multiple selections. Keep watching. Jessica instructs a security guard with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. Make sure he doesn't touch anything valuable. Marcus observes the scene with the detached interest of an anthropologist studying primitive tribal behavior. The irony deepens when he notices the Thompson Holdings logo prominently displayed on the welcome banner, the silent auction items, even the cocktail napkins. His company's name is literally everywhere, yet his presence is questioned. The evening breeze carries the scent of jasmine from the shore and the sound of jazz from the yacht's premium sound system. Marcus recognizes the playlist. He personally selected it during the planning meetings. But tonight, He's content to be underestimated. Sometimes the best lessons come from unexpected teachers. The tension crystallizes when Marcus approaches the buffet table. The spread is impressive. Lobster thermidor, Wagyu beef sliders, truffle risotto, all arranged with the precision of a military operation. Marcus reaches for a plate, and Jessica materializes beside him like a well-dressed bouncer. "Sir, the premium section is for VIP guests only." Her voice carries the authority of someone who has never been questioned. Her smile as artificial as the flowers adorning the centerpiece. Marcus pauses, plate halfway to his destination. "I have a VIP invitation," he says, his tone remaining conversational despite the growing audience of nearby guests who have suddenly developed intense interest in their appetizers. Jessica's laugh has the sharp edge of broken glass. "I don't see your name on the authorized list." She taps her clipboard with a manicured nail, the sound echoing with bureaucratic finality. The actual list. The word actual hangs in the air like smoke, heavy with implication. Marcus sets down his plate with deliberate care, the porcelain clicking against the marble buffet table with surprising loudness in the sudden quiet. "Perhaps I could speak with the event organizer," Marcus suggests, maintaining his composure even as he feels the familiar weight of being judged by everything except his character. "They're busy with important guests," Jessica replies, her emphasis on important leaving no doubt about where she places Marcus in the social hierarchy. "Real donors, you understand." The conversation is drawing attention like a magnet draws metal filings. Guests pretend to examine the silent auction items while straining to catch every word. Marcus recognizes several faces from last month's board meeting, yet they study their programs with sudden scholarly intensity. Why is he even here? The whisper comes from somewhere behind Marcus, loud enough to be heard but quiet enough to maintain plausible deniability. "Some people have no shame," another voice adds, the words floating over the deck like unwelcome ghosts. Marcus attempts to capture a moment for his personal collection, a harmless photo of the yacht's elegant design, when Jessica's hand shoots out like a striking snake. "No photographs without express permission," she declares, her voice rising above the gentle jazz music. "This isn't a public pier, and this certainly isn't a tourist attraction." The irony burns. Marcus owns the yacht. He approved the photography policy. He's standing on his own property being told he can't take pictures. Security guards appear as if summoned by invisible signals, their presence subtle but unmistakable. They don't approach directly, but they orbit Marcus's position like satellites, always visible in his peripheral vision. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," Marcus says, his voice carrying the calm authority of someone accustomed to diffusing boardroom tensions. But here, his usual tools of negotiation seem powerless against the armor of prejudice. Jessica's smile widens, revealing teeth as white and sharp as a shark's. "The only misunderstanding is thinking you belong here." Marcus pulls out his phone, his movements deliberate and unhurried. He opens his voice recorder and his message app simultaneously. If words won't work, documentation will. He sends a brief text to his assistant. "Monitor local social media. Azure Dreams. Send legal team details in 1 hour." The pieces are moving on the chessboard, though Jessica doesn't realize she's been playing against a grandmaster. Jessica chooses the nuclear option. She taps her champagne flute with a dessert spoon, the crystalline chime cutting through conversations like a fire alarm. The deck falls silent except for the gentle lapping of waves against the hull and the distant sound of traffic from the marina. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the interruption," Jessica announces, her voice projecting across the deck with theatrical precision. "We have a situation that requires immediate attention." Marcus feels the weight of 40 pairs of eyes settling on him like a physical force. The familiar sensation of being the only black face in a white space intensifies, but his expression remains composed. He's been the subject of scrutiny before. Boardrooms, country clubs, galas exactly like this one. The difference tonight is that the scrutiny comes with hostility instead of the usual polite discomfort. "We have an uninvited guest who has gained unauthorized access to our private event," Jessica continues, her words chosen with legal precision. Despite multiple requests to verify his invitation through proper channels, This individual refuses to cooperate with security protocols. The crowd shifts uncomfortably. Some faces show embarrassment at the public spectacle. Others reveal thinly veiled satisfaction at the drama unfolding. Marcus recognizes the latter group, people who mistake cruelty for entertainment. Some people, Jessica's voice drops to a stage whisper that somehow carries across the entire deck, think they can dress appropriately and simply insert themselves into exclusive gatherings. But invitation forgery is a serious crime, and trespassing on private property is a federal offense when it involves maritime vessels. The words sting because they're designed to. Marcus has heard variations of this speech before. The suggestion that his presence anywhere above his station must be fraudulent, that his success is somehow borrowed or stolen rather than earned. "Sir, I'm going to need you to leave immediately," Jessica declares, her voice now booming with authority. "Security will escort you to ensure there are no further incidents." Marcus doesn't flinch. Instead, he reaches into his pocket and withdraws his phone with movements so slow and deliberate they seem choreographed. He opens his recording app, the red dot pulsing like a digital heartbeat. "For the record," Marcus says, his voice carrying clearly across the silent deck, "could you repeat your reason for asking me to leave?" Jessica's confidence doesn't waver. "You're trespassing. You don't belong here. This yacht isn't meant for people like you." The final phrase hangs in the air like smoke from a gun barrel. People like you. The coded language of discrimination, delivered with the confidence of someone who has never faced consequences for prejudice. Marcus taps his phone screen, saving the recording. He then opens his messaging app and sends 3 quick texts. One to his legal team, one to his assistant, and one to the CEO of Elite Events Management, Jessica's employer. "Thank you for clarifying," Marcus says, his voice maintaining its measured calm. "I'm sure this recording will be very useful in the conversation that's about to happen." Jessica's smile falters for just a moment, but she recovers quickly. "Are you threatening me? Ladies and gentlemen, you're witnessing intimidation tactics. This is exactly why we have security protocols." But Marcus has already moved on to the next phase of the chess game. His phone buzzes with incoming responses. The cavalry is mobilizing. These protocols Jessica keeps mentioning are about to be tested from a direction she never anticipated. She has no idea that the person she's humiliating has the power to end her career with a single phone call. But Marcus isn't interested in revenge. He's interested in justice. And sometimes justice requires patience. The situation metastasizes with the speed of wildfire in dry grass. Jessica's public humiliation has transformed a private moment of prejudice into a deck-wide spectacle, and Marcus finds himself at the center of a storm he didn't create but somehow must navigate. "I need to inspect your belongings," Jessica declares, gesturing to the leather messenger bag slung across Marcus's shoulder. "Standard security protocol for unauthorized individuals. We need to ensure you haven't taken anything that doesn't belong to you." The implication hits the crowd like a physical blow. Gasps echo across the deck. Even in a room full of people comfortable with exclusivity, the suggestion that Marcus might be a thief crosses lines that make some guests visibly uncomfortable. "That's completely inappropriate," objects Dr. Sarah Chen, a pediatric oncologist whose research Marcus's foundation has funded for 3 years running. But her voice lacks conviction, and she takes a step backward even as she speaks. Jessica wheels on Dr. Chen with predatory precision. "Are you willing to take responsibility if something goes missing? Because I'm not risking my career on assumptions about character." Marcus maintains his composure even as the accusation hangs in the air like toxic gas. "I decline the search," he says simply. "I'm happy to wait here while you contact the proper authorities to resolve this situation." "Proper authorities?" Jessica's laugh has a manic edge. "You mean the police? Because that's exactly what I'm about to do. Breaking and entering, trespassing, possible theft. They take maritime crime very seriously." The crowd begins to fracture along predictable lines. Younger guests fidget uncomfortably, their phones out as they document the confrontation for social media. Older guests cluster in tight groups, whispering behind raised programs and champagne flutes. "This is getting out of hand," murmurs Richard Blackstone from the mayor's office. but he makes no move to intervene. "Is it?" responds Margaret Hawthorne, wife of a pharmaceutical executive. "Security protocols exist for a reason. We can't just ignore them because we feel uncomfortable." The comment draws nods from several guests, and Marcus recognizes the moment when reasonable people convince themselves that cruelty is actually prudence. Jessica senses the momentum shifting in her favor and decides to press her advantage. She pulls out her phone and begins recording a video, narrating like a nature documentary, filmmaker capturing predatory behavior. "I'm dealing with an aggressive individual who has gained unauthorized access to a private charity event," she announces to her camera, making sure to capture Marcus in the frame. Despite multiple opportunities to verify his credentials through proper channels, he has become increasingly hostile and is now refusing mandatory security procedures. Marcus watches with detached fascination as Jessica constructs a narrative that bears no resemblance to reality. In her version, his calm requests for clarification become aggressive behavior. His polite refusal to be illegally searched becomes refusing mandatory procedures. "I'm live streaming this for everyone's safety," Jessica continues, her thumb hitting the Go Live button on Instagram. #Yacht security, #private event protection, #charity safety. The red live indicator appears on her screen, and Marcus realizes the situation has escaped the confines of the yacht entirely. Somewhere in cyberspace, strangers are watching and judging based on Jessica's carefully curated narrative. Comments begin flowing across Jessica's screen. "Good for you. Why do these people think they can go anywhere? Call the Coast Guard." But mixed among the supportive messages, other voices emerge. "This looks like discrimination. Something doesn't feel right. Why is she being so aggressive?" Marcus observes the digital democracy in action. Strangers with incomplete information rushing to judgment based on 30 seconds of decontextualized video. It's a perfect microcosm of modern discourse, quick, shallow, and designed for maximum emotional response rather than understanding. Ladies and gentlemen, Jessica addresses the crowd while keeping her live stream running. "I'm going to call the Coast Guard. Maritime trespassing is a federal crime, and this individual's continued presence represents a threat to everyone's safety." The words "federal crime" and "threat to safety" land with calculated impact. Several guests move toward the yacht's exits, deciding that charity galas shouldn't require this level of drama. Marcus checks his phone. His assistant has confirmed that the legal team is en route. Elite Events Management's CEO is unavailable, probably because he's frantically trying to understand how his company became involved in what's about to become a very public relations nightmare. But Marcus's favorite message comes from Dr. Patricia Williamson. "I know who you are. This is wrong. Should I say something?" He types back quickly. "Wait 5 minutes. Trust me." The chess game is entering its final phase, and Jessica has no idea she's been playing against the board's owner all along. The Coast Guard threat proves to be Jessica's tactical error. As she dials the emergency number with theatrical flourish, her own phone erupts with an incoming call that cuts through her live stream like a sword through silk. The caller ID reads, "Elite Events, CEO Urgent." Jessica glances at the screen, then at her live audience of increasingly engaged social media viewers. She's trapped between her public performance and what might be career-ending instructions from her boss. "I need to take this," she announces to the crowd, but keeps her live stream running. The decision will haunt her. "Jessica Chen, what the hell do you think you're doing?" The voice explodes from her phone speaker, loud enough for nearby guests to hear clearly. Elite Events CEO David Morrison's voice carries the panic of a man watching his company's reputation disintegrate in real time. "I'm handling a security situation, Mr. Morrison," Jessica replies, her confidence wavering for the first time tonight. "We have an unauthorized individual who—" "That's Marcus Thompson." Morrison's voice cracks like a whip. "Marcus Thompson, CEO of Thompson Holdings, our client. The man whose company owns the yacht you're standing on." The words hit the crowd like a detonation. Conversations stop mid-sentence. Champagne flutes pause halfway to lips. The gentle jazz music suddenly seems deafeningly loud in the silence. Jessica's face cycles through confusion, denial, and the dawning horror of complete professional catastrophe. "That's impossible," she whispers, but her voice carries clearly in the sudden quiet. "He can't be. I mean, he doesn't look like." She stops herself, but the words hang in the air like toxic smoke. The live stream comments explode. "OMG, she's screwed. This is beautiful. Karma in real time." Marcus steps forward, his movement drawing every eye on the deck. When he speaks, his voice carries the quiet authority of someone accustomed to being heard. "Perhaps this would be a good time to check your actual guest list," he suggests, pulling out a business card with deliberate slowness. The Thompson Holdings logo gleams in the yacht's ambient lighting. The large display screen on the yacht's upper deck suddenly flickers to life, showing the evening's sponsor acknowledgments. Thompson Holdings Charitable Foundation proudly presents. Scrolls across the screen in elegant script, followed by Marcus's professional headshot and biography. The crowd turns as one to look at the screen, then back at Marcus, then at Jessica, who stands frozen like a deer in headlights. The cognitive dissonance is visible on faces throughout the crowd as they try to reconcile their assumptions with reality. "Mr. Thompson," Dr. Patricia Williamson steps forward, her voice carrying genuine shame. "I apologize. I should have said something earlier. I know you from the hospital fundraisers." Her words break the dam. Richard Blackstone approaches with his hand extended. "Marcus, I'm sorry about this confusion. We've worked together on the waterfront development project." More voices join in, a chorus of recognition and retroactive respect. "I know you from the university board. We met at the governor's reception. Your foundation funded my daughter's research." Jessica watches her world collapse with the speed of a controlled demolition. Her live stream viewers witness her humiliation in real time. She's done. This is epic. Career over. Captain Rodriguez appears from the yacht's bridge, having been summoned by the commotion. "Mr. Thompson, sir, I'm so sorry. I was reviewing the navigation charts and didn't realize." He shoots a look at Jessica that could melt steel. "This should never have happened on your vessel." Marcus raises his hand gently, silencing the growing chorus of apologies and explanations. When he speaks, his voice carries across the deck with calm authority. "The issue isn't confusion about the guest list," he says, his words chosen with surgical precision. "The issue is the assumption that someone who looks like me couldn't possibly belong in a space like this. That assumption led to treatment that was discriminatory, illegal, and completely unacceptable." The live stream comments shift. "He's absolutely right. This is powerful. Listen to this man." Jessica's phone, still streaming live, captures her complete breakdown in real time as she realizes she's not just lost her job, she's become a viral symbol of workplace discrimination. The yacht rocks gently in the harbor breeze, but the ground beneath Jessica's feet has opened into an abyss from which there is no return. The aftermath unfolds with the inexorable momentum of an avalanche. Jessica stands frozen as her professional world disintegrates around her, her live stream still broadcasting her humiliation to thousands of viewers who are witnessing justice served in real time. "Jessica Chen, you are terminated effective immediately." David Morrison's voice booms from the phone speaker, ensuring everyone on deck hears the pronouncement. "Security will escort you from the premises. Your final paycheck will reflect the legal fees this incident is going to cost us." But Marcus raises his hand before security can move. "That won't be necessary," he says, his voice carrying the calm authority of someone who has just reclaimed control of his own vessel. "Miss Chen can leave under her own power." The grace note stings worse than fury would have. Jessica realizes she's being shown mercy by the very person she tried to humiliate, and the irony burns like acid. "Mr. Thompson," Jessica begins, her voice cracking. I didn't know." "You didn't know because you didn't want to know," Marcus replies, his tone remaining measured. "You saw what you expected to see based on your prejudices, not what was actually in front of you." The live stream comments flow like a river. She's learning the hard way. This is what prejudice costs. "Respect to this CEO." Marcus turns to address the crowd, his voice carrying clearly across the deck. Elite Events Management will no longer be contracted by Thompson Holdings for any future events. This incident demonstrates a fundamental failure in their diversity training and cultural competency. David Morrison's voice continues to crackle from Jessica's phone. The entire company apologizes unreservedly. We'll be implementing mandatory bias training for all staff members and reviewing our hiring practices with a third-party consultant. But the damage extends beyond a single company. Marcus's assistant appears with a tablet showing real-time social media analytics. The hashtag Yacht discrimination is trending nationally. News outlets are picking up the story. Civil rights organizations are sharing the live stream footage. The video of this incident will be forwarded to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, Marcus announces, his words carrying the weight of legal consequence. Not for revenge, but to ensure this doesn't happen to someone else who might not have the resources to fight back. Jessica's career in event management is effectively over. Other companies have already seen the footage. Her name is now permanently linked to workplace discrimination in the age of viral video. The internet has rendered its verdict, and there is no appeals court for social media justice. Thompson Holdings will be redirecting the budget for tonight's event management fees to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, Marcus continues. Sometimes the best way to honor a commitment to equality is to put resources behind organizations that fight for it. The crowd applauds, the sound echoing across the water. But Marcus isn't finished. Additionally, my foundation will be establishing a scholarship program for minority students pursuing careers in hospitality management. Perhaps better education can prevent future incidents like this one. Jessica clutches her phone as the live stream continues to document her downfall. The comment count has passed 10,000. The video has been screen recorded and shared across platforms. There is no containing this story, no controlling the narrative now. She gathers what remains of her dignity and walks toward the gangway, her heels clicking against the deck with hollow finality. Each step takes her further from the career she spent years building and closer to an uncertain future defined by this single evening of prejudice. As she reaches the yacht's edge, Marcus calls out one final time, "Miss Chen." She turns, hope flickering briefly in her eyes. "I hope you learn from this experience. Real growth only happens when we confront our biases honestly." The live stream ends as Jessica steps onto the dock, but the ripple effects have only just begun. By morning, her story will be a case study in how quickly prejudice can destroy a career in the digital age. The evening air carries a different energy now, cleansed of tension and thick with possibility. Marcus stands before the reassembled crowd, no longer the unwelcome intruder but revealed as the gracious host he always was. The transformation is complete, but the lesson is just beginning. Tonight reminded me why our work in promoting equality matters, Marcus begins, his voice carrying across the deck with quiet authority. This wasn't about revenge or public humiliation. It was about confronting a system that allows prejudice to flourish in spaces where it has no place. He pauses, letting his words settle over the crowd like morning dew. I grew up in Detroit, in a neighborhood where success seemed as distant as the moon. My mother cleaned office buildings downtown, the same buildings where I now attend board meetings. She taught me that dignity isn't determined by zip code, bank account, or skin color. It's determined by how we treat each other when we think no one is watching. Dr. Patricia Williamson wipes away a tear, finally understanding the weight of her earlier silence. "You're right," she says, her voice carrying across the deck. "I recognized you and said nothing. That makes me complicit in what happened." Marcus nods appreciatively. Acknowledgement is the first step toward change. But recognition isn't enough. Real change happens when we transform moments of injustice into opportunities for growth. The crowd listens with the intensity of students attending a master class in moral courage. These are successful people, accustomed to being the smartest voices in their respective room. Tonight, they're learning from someone who possesses something rarer than intelligence, wisdom earned through adversity. Discrimination doesn't just hurt individuals, Marcus continues. It robs organizations of talent, communities of innovation, and society of progress. When we judge people by appearance rather than character, we miss opportunities to learn from voices that might change our world. His phone buzzes with a message from his assistant. 3 major news networks want interviews. 2 universities have requested guest lectures, and the NAACP has invited him to speak at their annual convention. The story is spreading beyond social media into mainstream consciousness. Thompson Holdings will be partnering with the University of Miami to establish the Character Over Color Fellowship Program, Marcus announces. We'll provide full scholarships for minority students pursuing business degrees, along with mentorship programs, connecting them with industry leaders who understand that diversity isn't just good ethics, it's good business. The applause is thunderous, but Marcus raises his hand for quiet. The real work begins tomorrow. Tonight was about confronting one person's prejudice, but systemic change requires sustained effort from all of us. He looks out over the crowd, making eye contact with as many people as possible. Every person here has influence in their respective fields. You hire employees, select vendors, approve budgets, and make decisions that affect thousands of lives. Use that influence to ensure tonight's lesson doesn't end with tonight's story. The yacht rocks gently in the harbor, its lights reflecting off the dark water like stars fallen to earth. Marcus has transformed a moment of humiliation into a master class in leadership, showing that true power lies not in the ability to destroy opponents, but in the wisdom to turn enemies into allies and obstacles into opportunities. Judge people by their contributions, not their appearance, he concludes. By their character, not their color. By their actions, not their assumptions. This is how we build a world worthy of our children's dreams. The evening winds down, but the story is just beginning its journey into the wider world. Marcus stands at the yacht's bow, silhouetted against the harbor lights, a figure transformed from victim to victor through the simple act of refusing to accept injustice as inevitable. This story belongs to all of us, he says, addressing not just the crowd before him, but the thousands still watching the viral footage spreading across social media platforms. Every person who has ever been judged by their appearance rather than their character. Every individual who has been told they don't belong in spaces they helped create. He pauses, his gaze sweeping across faces that will remember this night for the rest of their lives. The next time you witness discrimination, and there will be a next time, you have a choice. You can be the silent observer who enables injustice through inaction, or you can be the voice that speaks truth to power. His phone shows the hashtag Character Over Color trending globally. The story has been picked up by news outlets across 3 continents. Change is spreading at the speed of fiber optic cables. Share this story. Comment about your own experiences with prejudice. Subscribe to content that promotes equality and justice. But most importantly, act. In your workplaces, your communities, your daily interactions with people who look different from you. The crowd understands they've witnessed something significant, not just the downfall of one prejudiced individual, but a master class in how to fight discrimination with dignity, authority, and strategic patience. Remember, Marcus concludes, his voice carrying across the water to shores unseen. In a world that judges by appearance, the greatest revolution is seeing people for who they truly are. The Azure Dreams rocks gently in the harbor, no longer just a yacht, but a symbol of transformation. Tonight, assumptions crumbled, prejudices were exposed, and justice prevailed not through violence or vengeance, but through the simple act of refusing to accept that someone's worth is determined by their skin color. Because character, not color, defines greatness. 3 months later, Marcus stands in the same marina, but everything has changed. The Azure Dreams has become something of a pilgrimage site for those who witnessed the viral confrontation that night. Tour boats slow as they pass, guides pointing out the yacht where the discrimination video happened. The incident has taken on a life of its own, spawning documentaries, academic studies, and corporate training programs across the hospitality industry. Marcus checks his watch, 6:47 p.m., almost exactly the same time he arrived that fateful evening. Tonight, he's hosting the inaugural Character Over Color Scholarship reception, welcoming 25 minority students who will receive full rides to business school. The symbolism isn't lost on him. transforming a site of humiliation into a launching pad for dreams. Mr. Thompson? A young woman approaches hesitantly. Maria Santos, 19, from East LA, the daughter of a hotel housekeeper who will now study hospitality management at USC. I wanted to thank you, not just for the scholarship, but for showing us how to fight with dignity. Marcus smiles, remembering his own 19-year-old self, angry, ambitious, and convinced the world would never make room for him. The dignity was always yours, Maria. I just refused to let someone else take it away. The guest list tonight reads like a who's who of social justice and business leadership. Dr. Patricia Williamson chairs the Scholarship Selection Committee now, having turned her shame into action. Richard Blackstone pushed through city legislation requiring bias training for all municipal contractors. Even David Morrison, Jessica's former boss, serves on the advisory board after completely restructuring elite events' hiring and training practices. But the most surprising attendee stands near the gangway, checking names against her tablet with nervous precision. Sarah Kim, Jessica's former assistant, now runs her own event management company built on principles of inclusion and cultural competency. The night that destroyed Jessica's career became Sarah's inspiration to build something better. Sarah, Marcus approaches her with genuine warmth. How's the new business? She looks up, still somewhat star-struck by his presence. Growing faster than I can handle, sir. Turns out there's huge demand for event planners who actually understand diversity. She pauses, choosing her words carefully. I learned a lot that night. Not just about what not to do, but about what happens when you stay silent in the face of injustice. Marcus nods approvingly. Silence in the face of injustice is complicity, but recognition of that fact is the beginning of wisdom. The scholarship recipients arrive in clusters, their excitement palpable. These young people represent every corner of America's diversity: African American, Latino, Asian, Native American, and mixed-race students whose dreams were made possible by that night's confrontation. They carry themselves with the confidence of those who know their worth isn't determined by others' limitations. Dr. Williamson approaches with a tablet full of statistics. The ripple effects keep expanding, she reports. Hospitality schools are reporting 40% increases in minority applications. The character over color hashtag has generated over 50 million impressions, and we've documented behavior changes in service industries across 12 major cities. Marcus accepts the tablet but doesn't look at the numbers immediately. He's learned that lasting change isn't measured in metrics but in moments, like watching Maria Santos practice her acceptance speech, or seeing Sarah Kim build a business on principles of inclusion. Any word from Jessica? He asks, though he's not sure why he cares. Dr. Williamson's expression softens. She's teaching bias awareness workshops for a nonprofit in Oregon. Apparently, that night changed her as much as it changed everyone else. She submitted a video application to speak at next year's scholarship ceremony. The irony is profound. The woman who tried to eject Marcus from his own yacht now wants to address the scholarship recipients who exist because of her prejudice. Marcus considers this carefully. Justice sometimes looks like redemption, and redemption requires forgiveness. What do you think? Dr. Williamson asks. I think, Marcus says slowly, that if someone wants to spend their life teaching others not to make the mistakes they made, that might be the most meaningful apology possible. As the sun sets over the marina, casting golden light across the yacht's deck, Marcus realizes that the night 3 months ago wasn't just about confronting one person's prejudice. It was about demonstrating that power used wisely can transform not just individual lives, but entire systems. The scholarship recipients gather for the formal presentation, their faces bright with possibility. Marcus looks out over these young people and sees the future, a future where character truly does matter more than color, where dignity is a birthright rather than a privilege, and where the content of one's character finally outweighs the color of one's skin. Tonight, the Azure Dreams hosts dreams instead of discrimination, hope instead of hatred. And somewhere in the marina's gentle evening breeze, the echoes of "You don't belong here" have been replaced by a new refrain: "Welcome home."